everybody, it is I, once again, the Nomad, coming to you live from the west ends of the internet, here to bring you the news. Yes, once again, the internet is behaving, or at least somewhat behaving today. I'm able to actually communicate fairly effectively via the internet, or the interwebs, as the chillins would say. But I digress. Hello, Mr. Barkley, welcome. Let's get right to the news. You'd speak German. I love this. Donald Trump has told Europe that they would be speaking German and a little Japanese without the U.S. as he doubled down on demands for Greenland, but ruled out using force. Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Trump claimed the U.S. won the Second World War while highlighting the importance of Greenland for American security. He said, "After the war, we gave Greenland back. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. How ungrateful are they now?" And so now our country and the world face greater risks than ever, all right, than it ever did before because of weapons of warfare that I can't even talk about. However, he confirmed that he will not use military force to acquire Greenland amid tensions between the United States and Europe. "We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be frankly unstoppable. But I won't do that, okay?" Now everyone says, "Oh, good." All right. I said this before. We were never going to invade Greenland. There's no point to it, okay? Because if we need to invade Greenland, it won't be because the Europeans are there to stop us, okay? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Now, we will probably, pretty much purchase Greenland one way or another. Just pointed it out. Meanwhile, back in the U.S., from the Washington Compost via MS Now. Sounds like an abortion pill, MS Now. ICE targeted off-duty police officers in the Twin Cities, local police say. Oh, do they now? Local law enforcement leaders in Minneapolis and St. Paul are raising concerns about immigration and custom enforcement agents violating citizens' civil rights, including those of off-duty police officers, as ICE has surged into Minnesota in recent weeks. Mark Bruley, the police chief of Minneapolis, the suburb Brooklyn Park, said at a Tuesday news conference that an off-duty police officer had been boxed in by vehicles driven by ICE agents who demanded, with guns drawn, to see paperwork proving the officer had the right to be in the United States. "She's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have had any paperwork," he said. The officer attempted to begin filming the interaction with her phone and was and, and her phone was knocked out of her hand, Bruley said. When she identified herself as a police officer, the federal agents immediately left. All of the off-duty police officers who had been targeted by ICE in the city were of people of color, Bruley said. Asked about the police chief's comments, the Department of Homeland Security said Wednesday morning that it had no record of ICE or Border Patrol stopping and questioning a police officer and could not verify the information without a name. The agency added that it would continue to look into the claims. Well, okay, I'm not saying that this didn't happen. We can open up Greenland mines and send the illegals and leftists there to mine. Hey, I've often said that we should have the best subway system in America. All you do is you take the illegals and you sentence them to 1 year of working in the subways, and you create a subway system from one end of the country to the other. And no, you're not using explosives. You're using picks, and you're going to sit up there and dig. And here's your shovel. Here's your dig. Have fun. We've got tens of millions. It won't take long with that many people working on it. But regardless, they say that this happened to a female police officer. We're missing something here. If this incident even came close to being taking place, we are missing something. All right? We are missing something complete something here. This interaction wasn't, oh, okay, I just randomly stopped this person on the street, or they targeted this person without knowing who she was and that she was a police officer. So these people, they're targeting the police officer. Okay, well they're targeting the police officer, and all of a sudden she identified herself as police, and they immediately left. What sense does that make? So we're missing something here about this encounter. This encounter, it didn't take place as it's being portrayed, if it took place at all. Because you're right, Matt. It could be, well, this took place in her own mind. Oh, okay, so she has a recording of it. Well, she was going to record it, but they knocked the camera, they knocked her phone out of her hand. Really? When they came up and they asked for identification, she immediately grabbed a phone and tried to film it, and they knocked it out of their hand. And then she identified herself as a police officer, and then they left. Does this make sense to anybody except for a leftist paper that trying to say something took place when they have no evidence that it took place? This is a guy making a claim that I would love to see backed up with actual facts. All she had to do to record this would be put on the police dash cam. And considering Minneapolis and the state that it's in right now, does this surprise anybody? Meanwhile, immigration officer injured during targeted operation in the Los Angeles area. The Custom and Border Protection officer was injured Wednesday morning during a targeted operation in South Los Angeles. The incident unfolded in Compton, a city south of downtown Los Angeles, as immigration enforcement officers attempted to arrest William Eduardo Moran Caraballo, who was described as a violent criminal from El Salvador, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Shortly after 7 a.m., Carballo attempted to flee from immigration officers and weaponized his vehicle and rammed law enforcement, DHS said. The federal agents fired shots at Caraballo, who was not injured. The CBP, officer involved in the operation was injured during the ordeal. The extent and nature of the injuries were not immediately clear. The situation is evolving and more information is forthcoming, the agency said in a statement. I'm just I'm just, you know, not surprised. And of course, I'm hoping that Compton riots. Wouldn't surprise me at all. It's because these people have the wrong view of law enforcement. They have the wrong view of their rights. They have the wrong view of what's really going on, and they all know it, but they're not willing to admit it. They're not willing to admit it. When you're emotionally wrapped up in these things, you're out of your mind. Let's go on to some more stories. Forecasters warn of a potentially catastrophic storm from Texas to the Carolinas. With many Americans still recovering from multiple blasts of snow and unrelenting freezing temperatures in the nation's northern tier, a new storm is set to emerge this weekend that could roads, trees, and power lines with devastating ice across a wide expanse of the South. The storm arriving late this week and into the weekend is shaping up to be a widespread, potentially catastrophic event from Texas to the Carolinas, said Ryan Mao, a former chief scientist at NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I don't know how people are going to deal with it. How did they deal with it when the 1800s? Forecasters on Tuesday warned that ice could weigh down trees and power lines, triggering widespread outages. If you get half an inch of ice, or heaven forbid an inch of ice, that could be catastrophic, said Keith Avery, CEO of the Newberry Electric Cooperative in South Carolina. Here's what to know. Great swaths of heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain are expected. Temperatures will be slow to warm in many areas, meaning ice that forms on the roads and sidewalks might stick around, forecasters say. The exact timing of the approaching storm and where it is headed remained uncertain Tuesday. Okay, that sounds like it's winter weather. Yes, I agree. It's winter. That's winter weather. Okay, let me tell you, sleet storms are interesting when they coat everything with ice. And yes, it downs power lines, it downs everything. Okay. But as the sun comes through it in the morning, it's very pretty. Assuming there's not clouds, it's real pretty to see the ice glisten off, the sun glisten off the ice rather, right? And it sparkles. It's just beautiful. It's deadly. You walk outside and bust your ass immediately, right? You twist your ankle, you end up breaking your leg. I mean, I know people break their hips. I mean, I can understand it because of how bad it is. So it will be interesting. Meanwhile, in Japan, TEPCO restarts first nuclear reactor since Fukushima under close scrutiny. The Tokyo Electric Power Company Holdings Inc. on Wednesday restarted its first nuclear reactor since the 2011 Fukushima disaster, with the utility's safety measures set to be closely watched as it seeks to turn around its business amid ongoing cleanup efforts from the accident. TEPCO brought back online the number 6 reactor at the 7-unit Kawasaki Kariwa complex in Nagata Prefecture, northwest of Tokyo, the world's largest nuclear power plant by output when fully operational, making it the 15th reactor in the country to have restarted after the stringent post Fukushima crisis safety standards. The latest development marks a key milestone for the government pushing for the use of nuclear power as a resource poor Japan, while safety concerns remain among the public following the worst nuclear crisis since the 1986 Chernobyl disaster. The closely watched restart took place at 7:02 p.m. Wednesday when a worker at the central control room pushed a button to remove the control rods from the number 6 reactor. At 8:28 p.m., the reactor reached criticality and a fully controlled self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction, began. The TEPCO plans to increase output and transmit power to the Tokyo area on Tuesday on a trial basis before starting commercial operation on February 26th. We will show through our deeds and results that we are putting safety first, says TEPCO. Okay. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I really think that part of the problem is the short-sightedness of idiots. And you can blame whoever you want for this. Okay? One of the biggest problems that they had with the Fukushima plant was when they lost power outside power outside of the power generation that they could do at the facility, they were not able to control the reactor. And nobody looks at that and says, well, why couldn't they? Well, their reasoning was, we don't ever want to rely upon power coming from the nuclear power plant itself. Because if there's a problem with that, then the safety mechanisms and everything, if it's getting power from the local portion of the power plant, then a local event could cause a meltdown. So it needed to have a system that was receiving power outside of the power generation capability of the plant itself. And while I understand that reasoning, my questioning is, okay, having that ability is fine, but having an emergency bypass wouldn't have been that wouldn't have been that difficult in a situation where you lost outside power. Why wasn't that implemented? Why wasn't it, I can choose whichever one is operational so that I can get this to work? Why wasn't something like that implemented? It doesn't make any sense. Now, that's not the only problem that they had. I admit that. Okay? But that is one of the issues that I've always questioned when these people talk about nuclear power. It's like, well, they can't have the ability to get power from its own plant. Why? Why wouldn't you have that ability? I'm not saying that you should be relying upon that ability. I'm saying you should have that ability. Just in case. As the more redundancy, the better for these systems. I've got to question the engineers with this. I really do got to question the engineering and the thought processes that go along with it. For those who care, which would only be the British, Prince Harry holds back tears as he tells the court Daily Mail made Meghan's life a misery. London. Prince Harry held back tears in the witness box as he told the London's High Court on Wednesday that the Daily Mail had made his wife Meghan's life an absolute misery as he gave evidence against the paper's publisher in a privacy suit. The Duke of Sussex, 41, and 6 other claimants, including singer Elton John, are suing the Mail's publisher, Associated Newspapers, for alleged privacy violations dating from the early 1990s to the 2010s. Associated, which publishes the Mail on Sunday, has called the allegation preposterous smears, saying its journalists relied on legitimate sources, including friends and acquaintances of celebrities. Harry, who in 2023 became the first royal in 130 years to give evidence in court during another lawsuit against the press, delivered a combative performance under questioning by Associated's lawyer Anthony White. But he grew emotional when he was asked about the impact of the case, saying that his treatment by Associated had only got worse since he sued the publisher in 2022. I think it's fundamentally wrong to have to put all of us through this again, right? When all we were asking for is an apology and some accountability, King Charles' younger son said. Look, you're going to whine and cry in court about how you're treated by the press? Really? Try being a Republican. Try telling the court what it would be like if you were a conservative, anyone, every Republican in the United States already knows how the papers react and the things they put them through. You see it on a daily basis. Now, there's even excessive cases that put anything that this jackass could say to shame. All right, if you take a look at how the papers have treated Trump, and it was an organized lynching of Trump. Let's be perfectly frank here. They're all in cahoots. You gotta be kidding me. All right, on to the next story. Wild video shows Dem lawmakers get in vicious a fight after a town hall meeting. From the New York Post. A wild video shows a vicious fight erupted between two St. Louis County Democrats who have a history of beef, with both women yanking hair and throwing haymakers after the town hall meeting. Missouri State Senator Angelina Walton Mosley and St. Louis County Councilwoman Shalonda Webb got into a violent scuffle after a town hall meeting at the local rec center in the city of Bellefontaine. Neighbors. Video obtained by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch shows Rochelle Walton Gray, Mosley's sister, and a former county councilwoman, were also involved in the fray before it was broken up by shocked bystanders. The footage shows. So let's take a little gander at this, shall we? Let's put this up here and see what's going on here. Oh, put that wagging finger up there. Put that wagging finger up there. Oh, you turn your back on me? Oh, no, you didn't say that. Oh, yes, you did not. I'm trying to ad lib what's going on here. Did you just call me a bee? Did you just call me a bee? Don't you point your freaking pen at me. Don't you point your pen at me. There's not much to here. Is this the altercation? Come on, there's got to be more to the altercation than this. You know? Let's move it out of. Oh, what did we miss here? We went too far. Okay, we should see the altercation start now. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna. Whoa! I'm gonna reach in there and grab me a here. We're gonna start a wailing. Let's get to this. It's Friday Night Fights. What is this person going to do? Nothing against you, lady, but you're waddling your ass up there. So, take a look at this woman. I'm sorry. This woman in the gray hair. Look at her. What does this waddle into place? Are you kidding me? I'm gonna go for a little throwdown here. Oh my goodness me. Footage shows Webb wearing a leotard maxi dress and glasses, waving a pen in Mosley's face in an animated exchange after the September 25th meeting during a confrontation as Webb was trying to leave the auditorium. The audio-less clip shows Mosley, in a black outfit, reaches out and appears to grab Webb by the throat and push her against the wall, which sparked a brawl as Webb charged after her. The pair grapple across the room before Webb grabs Mosley by the hair and the two exchange multiple blows to the head. Gray, who is wearing a blue top, jumps in to try and help her sister and grabs Mosley as onlookers run over and try to separate the women. They're eventually pulled apart. Look, the dumbest time in history. The thing is okay, I understand that these things can happen. This will happen in September, though. It's January. How come the video is only released now? How come this video is only being released and we're only being informed about it now? The real question is were both these women put in jail? Because they should have been. This is assault. And this is the problem with what goes on with these leftist counties. They never hold their own accountable for anything. Yeah, maybe they did in this case, because it doesn't say that they were held accountable. But the question I still have is how come this video is only showing up now? I guarantee you, if two Republicans went at it, and trust me, there are plenty of Republicans that have beef with other Republicans, okay, and would be willing to go into this kind of an action, right? Now, that might be less likely than Democrats, I agree, especially when you're dealing with unhinged women, right? Republican women tend to be a little less unhinged. I know people are like, oh, the sexist comment there, no man. Take it for what it's worth, folks. You don't see it as often. But if it had happened, you wouldn't have known about it the next on that day on the evening news. I guarantee you, before 24 hours was out, that video would have been out and everybody would have been watching. Guaranteed. Also from the New York Post, college rapist makes a mad dash for freedom after conviction. The bungling attempt was caught on camera. A California college student found guilty of raping and sexually assaulting several women made a mad dash for freedom while being escorted out of the courtroom. Arian Edagahi, 23, a former student at the University of California, Santa Barbara, tried to make his escape moments after a jury found him guilty Friday on all 3 counts of sexual assault involving 5 women and battery against the 6th when he was a freshman. While deputies were handcuffing Egati and escorting him to a secure holding area, he attempted to flee toward State Street in downtown Santa Barbara, reportedly shouting profanities, according to the footage obtained by Newsweek. The deputies fastened handcuffs on Etehagi, and began leading him from the courtroom to a secure holding area. He attempted to flee and sprinted toward State Street in downtown Santa Barbara. Moments later, in the courtroom, his attorney had argued that Edegati, already out on bail, should remain free until his sentencing on April 8th. The bailiff lunged to grab Edegati, but struggled to restrain him until a second officer rushed over. The 2 bystanders also stepped in, helping the bailiff pin him to the ground. Okay, I don't know anything about this case. Okay, I would be concerned about these things with because anytime I hear about women bringing a case of sexual harassment, and I know I shouldn't, but as soon as I hear about it, the first thing I start to do is discount it mentally. And the reason for it is women lie all the time about this kind of stuff. They lie all the time about it. A kid who's a freshman in college raped supposedly 5 women or sexually assaulted them. I would like to know exactly what the situation was. See, here's the queen. Several victims testified against him at trial, including an ex-girlfriend who reported being raped and assaulted by him during a party at his Elsa Vista apartment. He testified in his own defense, claiming that the sexual encounters were consensual. A 12-person jury was unable to reach a verdict on several of the charges against him, but ultimately found him guilty of sexual penetration with a foreign object and domestic violence battery against one victim, as well as forcible rape with another. The victims in the case showed remarkable bravery coming forward. Okay. So you're saying that these victims testified against him. What other evidence is in this case? Were there other people who witnessed it? Witnesses that were not a part of this whole situation? Did they testify? I'm sorry, but in this case here, uh, I, I don't see enough evidence to go through with this right now. I really don't, from what I've heard here. Now, I don't know if that's the only thing, right? But I don't consider these women brave. And I'm going to be real blunt. If this happened, exactly as they said, them telling it, congratulations, you stood up for what was right. That doesn't make you brave. Well, they have to worry about being believed. Yeah, they do have to worry about being believed. But not by the police. The police will always react as if the women don't lie. That's the way it's been for a long time. How many times have you heard, well, why would a woman lie about this kind of stuff? Why is the woman given the instant benefit of the doubt in the court system? To me, this sounds like these these people were at a party together, got all drunk, probably had all sorts of freaking perverted, I shouldn't say, what's the word I'm looking for, depraved activities going on, indulged in all sorts of nuanced stuff, right? Saying let's try this, and then the next day the women are like ashamed and are like, okay, well, this guy raped me because I was drunk. And the worst part about that is, there's a lot of people out here listening to this would say that's exactly right. That's what the law says, and I agree. That is what the law says. It's unfortunate that that's what the law says, because it should be if you don't have proof of an actual rape, and I mean real proof. Oh, other women came forward and they claimed that they were sexually assaulted too. And the same night with this guy, something does. Once again, does this sound? Something's not. We're not hearing something here. Okay, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying I don't see enough evidence to say that is what happened, though, exactly as the women claimed that it was. So if it comes to reasonable doubt, it's a good thing I wasn't on the jury. Just pointing it out. Because I'd have said, now, once again, I did not see all the evidence that was brought forward. I do know, however, in these cases, they do things that the way they shade the court prevents a lot. Lawmakers can sue to ensure release of the Epstein files, but not as part of the Maxwell case, a judge says. This is just nonsensical. Okay? Congressional co-sponsors of a law forcing the Justice Department to release its files on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell can file a lawsuit seeking a court-appointed observer to ensure compliance, but they lack the legal right to append their demand to her criminal case, a judge ruled. Judge Paul A. Engelmayer blocked U.S. Representative Ro Khanna, a Democrat from California, and Representative Thomas Massie, from a Republican from Kentucky, from intervening in Maxwell's sex trafficking case. The lawmakers, whose Epstein Files Transparency Act was signed into law by President Donald Trump in November, petitioned the judge last week in a bid to speed up the public disclosure of the files related to investigations into the late financier and Maxwell, his longtime confidant. Engelmeyer largely agreed with the Justice Department's insistence that he, as the judge overseeing Maxwell's case, had no authority to grant Khanna and Massey's request for an independent monitor to ensure the immediate release of more than 2 million documents that the government has identified as investigative materials. Khanna and Massey said the slow disclosure of documents violated the law and caused serious harm to the survivors. Okay, at this point in time, that's a stupid statement. I mean, I'm not saying that this is a good thing, but the reality is, what they're slow walking is an investigation into which needs to happen, and I'm all for it. But the judge just put a kibosh on anything related to frickin' Maxwell. If it was something that's related to the Maxwell case now, this judge just stood there and said, no, you can't, you don't have the right to look at this stuff. And this becomes the problem with this crap. Well, they could just release everything. Look, I agree. They could. I also agree that they should. I also know that they're not going to. Because they don't care about the victims. They care about the intelligence that was gathered under this system. And that's what I truly believe. J.P. Morgan's Damone warns of economic disaster as Trump backs credit card rate cap. J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Dimon, right, warned on Wednesday that the proposal to cap credit card interest rates would amount to economic disaster, while the U.S. President Donald Trump doubled down on the idea and said that he was asking Congress to approve the move. Trump, under pressure to address voters' cost of living concerns ahead of this year's congressional elections, called for the cap earlier this month without detailing how the plan would be implemented. It would remove credit from 80% of Americans, and that is their backup credit. Dimon, a longtime chief of J.P. Morgan and Wall Street's most influential banker, said at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Trump reiterated his call to cap interest rates in a separate address on Wednesday at the WEF, an annual gathering of the global political and business leaders. I'm all for putting a cap on that bullshit. I really am. I really am. Now I realize that there are credit card issues, and this would negatively affect banks. It would tighten lending in a certain sense. Okay? But I don't have a problem with it. Because I do believe that a lot of these credit card companies have been issuing credit cards with usury. All right? It has crossed the line into usury. It's one thing for a small line of credit. It's another thing to have excessive loan repayment schemes. And it's about time somebody capped this shit, because they themselves make all this freaking money keeping the rates high, when they themselves loan themselves money back and forth at almost nothing. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I've never understood why the rates have to be excessive. And anything approaching 19%, in my opinion, is already excessive. Especially when you take a look at a savings plan and they'll give you 1.5 or 2% in savings. All right, but they're going to charge you 19% for a credit card? Go screw yourselves. Oh, that'll cause a disaster. What disaster? That you can't sit up there and make so much money hand over fist and buy politicians left and right? Is that your real answer? Because this guy also sits there and go, well, I'm not an America First person. I'm a globalist, and it's exactly one of the reasons why I would make sure that this gets put into play. Greetings, Oz. urgent. The UN chief condemns Israeli demolition of a UN compound in East Jerusalem. Really? UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Tuesday condemned Israel's demolition of a UN compound in East Jerusalem, said his deputy's spokesman. The Secretary General condemns in the strongest terms the Israeli authorities' actions to demolish UNRWA's Sheikh Jarrah compound, said Farhan Haq, his deputy spokesman, in a statement. Israeli authorities demolished a building in East Jerusalem compound of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Why? Because this is a Hamas-run organization. It's funny how this jackass is so quick to condemn Israelis' demolition of the compound, and yet at the same time, that compound was being used by Hamas, all right, to plan and headquarters, all right, attacks on Israel. And members of UNRWA were participating in how these attacks were going to take place, and actually took place in some of the attacks, all right, on October 7th when they did invade. This entire compound should never even exist. In fact, the UN has no business even opening its mouth about this. Right now, there should be an audit done on the UN, and find out just how much money went there and whether or not it got to the people or whether or not it went into the hands of terrorists. And that much money that went into the hands of terrorists gets directly taken out of the budget, and specifically the salary of Guterres and his staff. And let's see how fast they start changing things. It's time we started holding these sons of bitches accountable. Final story of the day. A coyote swims to Alcatraz Island after in first ever documented case. A coyote caught on camera swimming to San Francisco's Alcatraz Island is believed to be the first of its species to visit the former prison, which is now a tourist attraction. Aidan Moore, a guest relations employee for Alcatraz City Cruises, said he was helping visitors disembark at a dock when a tourist showed him a video she captured of a coyote swimming to the shore and climbing onto the rocks. Moore posted the video to Facebook and said he contacted rangers on the island, but they were unable to locate the animal. Moore said he suspects the coyote may have gone back into the water, but it could also be hiding out somewhere on the island. Janet Kiesler, an amateur naturalist who has been studying coyote behavior in San Francisco for 2 decades, said the canine would be able to survive in the island for at least a short time, and said there are ample sources of food and puddles of fresh water to sustain the coyote. The coyote may have come from San Francisco or Angel Island, where coyotes were previously observed. Either way, the animal would have had to swim over the mile to Alcatraz. Kistler said the best thing to do for the coyote, if it's still on the island, is to give it distance. Leave the coyote alone. All right, it's a coyote. These things are dangerous. They really are. Okay? He was carrying a box called Acme. He was looking for the Roadrunner. The first question that comes to mind is, what made the coyote attempt to go to the island? I'm just curious. Now, maybe it was trapped on the island trying to get off. I don't know. But if the thing got into the ocean and then started swimming toward the island, which is a good distance, like I said, it's a mile to get there. Okay, in at certain times, that the tides are really against you in doing something like this. If that coyote, it's a coyote, folks. First of all, they carry a lot of diseases. They eat pets. They have attacked humans before. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but as far as I'm concerned, they should have just shot it if they saw it. They should be willing to take it out. But that's just me. You know, I come from a farm where these things attack livestock. I don't know if there's any livestock in the area of San Francisco, aside from pets, but it does show you that life is a lot more resilient than people give it credit for. Okay, everybody.